How's the real estate market affecting your
Real
investment?
estate is not a commodity.
Don't join the crazy parade.
Welcome to Market Talk with your host, Brian Roth, discussing today's real estate news, tips, and trends.
About 10 years ago, I went with a group of people to survival training at an outdoor wilderness survival school. Our instructor, he was a former U.S. Air Force SEER instructor, and SEER stands for Survival, Evasion, Resistance, Escape. This was an all-day class, and it was hands-on, and we were taught skills like how to start a fire with limited resources, how to build a shelter and locate water. And then the instructor also taught us how to prioritize our need. Like, for instance, you want to work on finding water first, then shelter, then food. But then we were also taught that there was one element that has to be at the top of the list in order to survive any situation, as any survival situation, and that is PMA. PMA. PMA stands for positive mental attitude. He said, the way we think about a situation will most often be the determining factor in the outcome. And just like our need for water and food, PMA is not something we should check once and forget. Has to be ongoing. And he said, the moment our attitude turns the corner and we start doubting our abilities to survive and we don't adjust that, that's the moment we start a downward spiral to failure. I watched that reality show Alone last month. The show's all about survival and some of the toughest elements in the world. If you go to their website, it describes the show like this. Alone's an American survival competition series on the History Channel. It follows the self-documented daily struggles of 10 individuals as they survive alone in the wilderness for as long as possible using a limited amount of survival equipment. With the exception of medical check-ins, the participants are isolated from each other and all other humans. They may tap out at any time or be removed due to failing a medical check-in, and the contestants who remains the longest wins a grand prize of $500,000. Now, I love shows like this, and I guess it's because I'm an outdoor person, and sometimes I wonder, how would I do? How would I measure up? Now, not that I want to go out there, but I think it's pretty typical that when we watch a show like that, and oftentimes we're sitting on the couch, talking about how much better we would do than the person actually out there. But if you watch the show, pay attention to each participant's attitude, because in every situation when someone got discouraged and it wasn't dealt with and they let it linger, they ended up tapping out. And I think it's a great example that demonstrates how you think about a situation determines the outcome, at least in most cases. And the same goes for real estate. Most real estate agents starting out are uncertain about what they should be doing, and I think it's pretty typical that they underestimate their abilities. They'll do those things they believe they should be doing and just hope for the best. Now, I've asked new agents about their goals and what they want to achieve for the year, and a typical response is, if I can just sell a couple homes this year, I'll be happy. And I think that the reason they think that is because maybe they believe it's not practical to expect more out of themselves. But then after 4 or 5 months, if they haven't closed a deal, they start to get discouraged. And if they don't do something to overcome the discouragement, it marks the end of their career. I've seen it time and time again. Attitude is everything. And from your very first days in real estate, you've got to get your attitude in check and tell yourself that failure, it's just not an option and you're going to succeed. There's this really good book. It's The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, and it was written by Gary Keller. And in the first part of his book, he tells a story about an old fable where a young shepherd boy was out in this field at night watching the sheep. He saw in a distance that a wolf had one of his sheep by the throat. And then as he raised his rifle to kill the wolf, he remembered what his father had taught him. At night, it's hard to judge the distance, and you'll most often fall short. His father taught him to adjust his sights and always aim high. So the young boy did and was able to hit his mark. So Keller goes on to write, for me, It held all the elements of a great fable and perfectly illustrates something I've come to believe to be true in my life. No one can accurately judge what the future holds. Tomorrow is as dark and as difficult to judge as the gap between the shepherd boy and his target. Yet so often we set our goals as if the next day or the next month or year or decades were as clear as an August afternoon. Is it any wonder most plans fall short of the mark? Aim high. This is the moral of the story, he says. Whether you're hunting wolves at night or setting your life goals, aim high. Now, I thought that was really good advice coming from Gary Keller. And by the way, Gary Keller is the founder of Keller Williams, so he knows a little bit about real estate and about success. You know, when I first became a real estate agent, I just made the decision I was going to treat it as if this career was a paid salary. And I went into the office 2 to 3 times every single week, and I just spend the whole day there. Now, just full disclosure, anytime I start something new, I get obsessed with learning. And so, I've got to learn everything about it. And that's what I did with real estate. I just immersed myself in everything that I could get hold of to learn about real estate. I've got all these different books that I still have today that I'll go back to every once in a while. If I start to get in a rut, I'll go back and pull out those books from my first year. But I learned the majority of the time I needed to spend on prospecting. And so even today, I spend most of my time on prospecting. But after my first 3 months, I'm going to be honest, I didn't have any contracts and I started to get really discouraged. And I even questioned my decision to become a real estate agent. But rather than just giving up and quitting, I decided I was going to speak to my broker. And I was real honest with him. And I told him how I was feeling. And I just wanted to help understanding, what was I doing wrong? The advice he gave me helped me adjust my attitude and push on. He told me I wasn't doing anything wrong and to keep doing what I was doing, to stay committed to the process and to pay off. And it did. One thing you should understand, discouragement, it's a normal reaction to unmet expectations. And everyone, and I mean everyone, goes through discouragement from time to time. It's what you do with it when it comes that makes the difference. Whether you're just getting into real estate or you've been in it for years, I really want to encourage you to aim high. I mean, if you've been trudging along and haven't seen results and begin to deal with discouragement, you need to adjust your sights. Remember, your success is determined by you. It's not determined by the market, and it's not determined by the people around you. You can survive this and be successful. Just adjust your sights and press on. Hey, thanks for joining me for another episode of Market Talk Weekly. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to my podcast so you don't miss another episode.